about implementing environmentally friendly mechanisms to your club, Baker's Bay, and at Baker's Bay Club, and on Great Guan Key. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a consultant for NOAA, which stands for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, and it's funded by the U.S. government. And we're really interested in what's going on here in the Bahamas. So I also have a degree in marine biology from Cal Poly University, and I've actually visited Baker's Bay multiple times. So when I heard about this project, I became really interested in it because I really care about what happens, and I really care about the best interests of your resort. So what's the purpose of me being here today? Well, there's a misnomer that I want to address, and that is that being environmentally friendly is death to profits. And I want to tell you that it's absolutely 100% not true. It is so easy to be environmentally friendly and help the environment, and though it seems like the costs up front are expensive and costly, it really, in the long run, will increase your profits because you will have a better representation of your resort as a whole, and you'll be helping the environment. So, what we're going to be talking about today is, okay, so what we're going to be talking today is the reasons why this is happening. And it is because, one, you're destroying the reefs around your resort. Secondly, that the Great Guan Key, or Save the Great Guan Key Interest Group, is threatening to sue you for the damage you've done to the environment. And third, continuing to implement your mechanisms you have currently at the Baker's Bay Golf Course will lead to a loss of reputation. Because you're damaging the environment, word will spread, and it will lead to a decrease in clientele. So just to give you a little bit of background, what we're talking about today is how Baker's Bay is negatively impacting the environment and how it's affecting the ecosystems. Two, we're going to be talking about, if you continue these negative influences, how it will affect your business in a negative way. And third, we're going to be talking about implementing environmentally friendly mechanisms to help you increase clientele and profit. So just to give you a little bit of background, these are some photos that were taken of the Great Guan Key where you're located before you started construction on your resort. You can see that they have crystal clear blue water, the reefs come right up to land. You have the mangrove forests, and they are really important to the environment because mangrove forests have tons of roots. And those roots absorb all the nutrients so that no nutrients can enter the water. Because what we've seen through research is that when nutrients enter the water, they cause what is known as eutrophication. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is what happened after construction started. You can notice the glow almost in the water from the dirt and erosion due to construction. You can see in the bottom left, there is an actual photo of, if you see the yellow line, that's known as a silt trap. You really try to prevent sediment from flowing outside of your construction zone. But all of that sediment flowed through the silt traps and not only damaged the environment inside, but outside as well. Even you can tell there's a striking contrast between the white inside and the cloudy blue outside, but the problem is it's still cloudy blue, and that really has an effect on the environment. You can also see after the fact, the difference between the inside and outside of the silt traps is exactly the same of brown murky water. So like I said, I did visit the Great Guan Key. Oh, you see it in the last slide. The picture on the far right-hand corner is some of the reefs I actually swam at when I first visited before your club was in existence. This is after, on the too far on the right. And you can see it is basically a barren wasteland. There's no coral remaining, just a few fans here and there, and the environment has become completely degraded. So this leads me to my first topic: how are the reefs becoming polluted? Well, they're undergoing a process known as eutrophication. And eutrophication occurs when a certain type of nutrients from land, whether it be a farm or a golf course, enter the water. And when they enter the water, they cause algal blooms. And what happens is there's these tiny things called protists. And the algal blooms are caused because the protists feed off the nutrients and drastically increase in numbers. So They go into the water and suck all the oxygen out of the environment. And anything below, you see that there's a layer, and below that layer, there's no oxygen. So anything such as stationary, such as coral, is completely suffocated. So when we're talking about this, we can apply it to the coral reefs. The coral reefs can't move; they're suffocated because your coral or your golf courses, the fertilizers you're using on them, are going into the water and suffocating these reefs. The top picture above is a picture of a healthy, normal coral reef, and the bottom is taken from right out front of your resort, and that is what used to be coral, and now all that remains is red and green algae. So what's happening is, why is this negatively affecting your environment? Well, the reason is that, one, you're leading to a decrease in biodiversity, and this is really unfortunate because biodiversity refers to the number of species in the environment, and all the local fishermen in the area depend on these reefs. Secondly, you're decreasing the sea turtle populations because sea turtles need to come to your nesting grounds to reproduce, but they can't if there's no coral as protection for them. Third, the destruction of your coral reefs will make people not want to visit your resort as much. And so we know for sure that you are polluting your environment because in early January of 2012, scientists found clear proof that the golf course of the northwestern Bakers Bay nutrients are leaching into the water because there was a study conducted specifically for your resort according to Dr. Thomas Borough and Dr. James Servino. And so another striking statistic is a recent study has been conducted on a place called Key Louie, which is very close to your resort. It's in the Bahamas, and they determined that a 250% increase in coral diseases occurs directly associated with eutrophication. So if this occurred on Key Louie, and it's in the same environment, we can determine that this will also have the same effect on your resort. It is also important to notice that according to James Servino, who's a specialist in reef biology, 40 to 60% of the fertilizer spread on the golf course will drain directly into the water and smother the coral. That's referring to your golf courses. And if you notice the picture on the right is the completely opposite side of the island. And the effect it has is not only located in your resort, but it spread to the other side of the island. So if you see how the entire sea floor is green, it would otherwise be white sand and rocks. But because of the eutrophication, it spread to the side and completely smothered the sea floor with green algae. Now that we've talked about the causes of your reef degradation, we're going to be talking about the negative effects if you continue to go on this path. So, the important thing to note is that Bakers Bay Resort is killing the very thing that's making you money, that's giving you a profit. The reason that people come to choose your resort over others is because of your coral reefs. Like families love to come with their the dads might like to go on the golf course during the day, and the children might like to play in the water. But one family activity is going and snorkeling on these coral reefs. But if they don't exist, you're losing the allure. And so the golf course is the reason for this. The golf course nutrients are running off. And if you look to the right, you see that your golf courses, your greens, are right next to the water. And there's no trees, no mangrove forest to prevent instant runoff into the water. So one article, according to the San Francisco Chronicle, James Risk, who has 48 years of experience monitoring coral reefs, says the result will be the death of the reef within 3 years. 3 years is all you have to turn around this process and prevent complete coral degradation. Because if the corals are completely gone, there's no getting them back. It's irreversible. So the point I'm trying to drive home here is why would tourists choose your resort over any other resort now that you've lost the allure of your coral reefs? So this picture represents a completely once healthy coral reef that is completely ruined. All it is very solid rock with some green algae growing on it. It used to be a really popular tourist attraction, but now it is completely ruined, and tourism on this island has actually decreased. So here's actually some articles that I have found online that relate and pertain to your resort directly. One example would be the Telegraph. in Britain, which says, avoid Baker's Bay Club like the plague. This is referring to your resort directly, and you do not want your resort to be associated with a plague. That's bad. We want to have positive influences. Another example would be through the National Geographic, and it's talking about biologists are fighting mad about a contentious and outsized resort elbowing its way onto our tiny North Bimini Island. It's referring to you as a destructive and corrosive environment, or a corrosive company is a strong environment. So finally, we're going to talk about the solution to your problems. And the solution is simple. We create buffer zones between the ocean and your resort to create a large surface area of absorption to absorb the fertilizers. Second, we implement biodegradable fertilizers. And an example of this is on Longboat Key, Florida, which is very close to your resort. And they actually did a study. And one of the members of the community said, since the use of synthetic fertilizers have ceased, there has been a noticeable increase in the populations of blue crabs and seabirds, as well as other island inhabitants. And if this is true, then we can assume that the same effects will happen to your island as well. So if we conduct frequent tests, use fertilizers, and create buffer zones, then this will increase coral production and increase your clientele, and this will be profitable, and you will avoid being sued by the Save Wanakee Interest Group. So that was also a pro to implementing our ideas. So, in conclusion, I would really hope that you reconsider your current practices, because if there's a continuation of this, then your reefs will die out and your clientele will significantly decrease. So the choice is clear, and people would really appreciate that you could have an environmental duty. And what I really want to drive home is that reducing Baker's Bay environmental footprint is 100% possible and necessary to ensure the success of your resort. Thank you. I'm sorry I went over.